Welcome, everyone, to our first and really only episode on Willow Season 1. We're off to a good start with Ben yawning. I am here, of course. I'm Brandon T. McClure, as you can see. And with me is Ben Magnet. The only reason why it's the two of us, we're the only two who got to finish the show. Sparks did attempt, but did not get there in time. And we wanted to be sure that we got this episode out as quickly as we possibly could, because the show is now pretty much a month old at this point, I think.
Give or take. Give or take a month old.
So we're talking about Willow Season 1. We were all pretty excited about the show on the Fake Nerd Podcast. We watched the trailers. The trailers looked great. We watched the movie. The movie was a lot of fun. We all liked the movie for the most part. But the show is here. The show is over. So we're going to be talking about Season 1 of Willow. What'd you think, Ben?
Now, I did not grow up, like, as we said during our main episode where we talked about the movie from the 1980s, I never grew up with Willow. I didn't really know Willow was a thing until maybe I was like a young adult, middle adult, I don't know. I didn't really know much about Willow, just that it was that one movie with Warwick Davis and it was a Lucasfilm thing. Mm-hmm. Now that I know more about it, I actually really, really enjoyed this show. I had a really good time. I have a few critiques and I wouldn't say complaints, but I would have a few critiques here and there. But other than that, this is a really fun fantasy show. I would definitely say this is one. I wouldn't call it a family show because there's coarse language. Even when I turned it on, this being a Disney Plus venture, and it says, "Hey, coarse language," and they start using said language, I'm like, "Oh wow, that's new for Disney." But other than that, I really enjoyed the show. I think they expand the world that they're in a little bit better, and obviously 30 plus years after the original film, they get to have better special effects. They have better creature designs. I really enjoyed the show. I'm honestly cannot wait for more to come.
Yeah, and spoilers all throughout the discussion. By the way, so if you've not seen the series at any point, don't watch this from here on out, because
Willow die. I'm kidding. No, he doesn't.
I mean, I expected him to. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Multiple times in the season, I was like, "Oh, is Willow gonna die?" I mean, the show's called Willow, and I was like, "How are they gonna get away with that?" Anyway, but I agree. I really like this show. I think that this is kind of so what works about the movie is its tone, for me anyway. The tone is very lighthearted. It's very fresh and kind of the way it presents a fantasy world. Very modern, even in the 80s. Mm-hmm. In its humor and its dialogue. Very, very much a modern sensibility. Not necessarily what we see in like Game of Thrones, for example. Or even Lord of the Rings. Like it's not like people don't always talk with a British accent and kind of the Queen's English. Val Kilmer's just American in that movie, right? But it's fun and it's an enjoyable experience, and that's really all they wanted to do. What the show does is continue that tone, and I think maximizes the potential that movie had. Now, I also have some qualms with it, mostly towards the end of the season, that I'm kind of okay with having, knowing that there's another season on the way. Mm-hmm. And especially with Graydon. And I'm wondering if you probably had the same thought with Graydon.
Yeah, I definitely do.
So let's get into some of the stuff that worked, some of the stuff that didn't work. I prefer to start with negatives because I like to mostly fluff up with some positives.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Graydon, who I think is the weakest part of the show, unfortunately, even though I really like what Tony Robillori is doing.
Graydon's for me is like, gosh, he is a weird character. Okay, when I say weird character, I don't know how to properly describe this because I don't hate Graydon. I actually really like Graydon. I like what his character is. I like how he is a prince forced into a marriage that he also doesn't want to be a part of. Like, you can tell right from the get-go when he first meets Kit, he's like, I'm not into this.
Right. And there's some really cool ideas with Graydon that I think are really fun, with the idea that like he doesn't know who he is because he's been told who he is his entire life. You know, he killed his brother because he was possessed. Later in the season, he gets possessed. He's forced into this marriage. He's forced to this destiny that he was never supposed to have because his brother was supposed to have it. And And so there's this overarching idea that Graydon doesn't know who he is, and he's trying to find himself. And it seems to be that the show wants to bring him into becoming a sorcerer like Willow, and that's all well and good. But by the time we get there, it's so late in the damn season.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wait, what's going on now?
Like when he uses the flute to use his magic spell when they were getting chased on the Shattered Sea, I'm like, hold up a minute. When did he learn to do that? There were definitely a few times where there's like some things were brought up, and I'm like, wait, we're not just gonna address this big gaping, I don't want to call it plot hole, but this thing that sounds really important. And thankfully we are getting a second season, because we're getting 3 seasons apparently.
Yeah.
I didn't understand. I didn't think that we were getting more seasons. I honestly thought we were getting a one and done.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was just like the one season, that's it. They saved Hiroshima and everything, because when the more the show was going, I was like, there's a lot of stuff that's unresolved, and I don't know how they're gonna fit it all into the last episode. And the last episode is only like 52 minutes long, give or take.
Yeah.
But with Graydon, especially with him, because him and his relationship with Alora, I was kind of rooting for him from the beginning. Like he's trying to,
yeah, baby.
He's trying to like, put her up, like build her up. It's like, no, you can do magic, you can do this, and then he learns how to do magic, and it's, I don't know. There are sometimes when I'm watching Willow, the rules of how magic are learned, it's a little confusing, because how in some fantasy realms or in some fantasy universes, magic is like you have the magic within you so you can learn it, and some people just sadly don't have it, or how people's like, oh, anyone can learn magic, you just gotta like study hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if this, I kept forgetting, or I kept trying to figure out if this world, like what were the rules of magic in this world. Can anyone learn magic? Is it just like only a few select people? Because obviously
it seems to me that it's kind of both. Like Alora has magic in her. She was born with magic. She's destined to be this incredible sorceress. But when it came to Graydon, it feels like he learned it kind of secondhand, and perhaps not. Let me just roll with something real quick. Perhaps not, because he is possessed at a very young age, and perhaps that left something in him.
Maybe.
Right. And so that's why he learns. That's why he can pick it up really quickly. But that's never really addressed in the show. That's never really explained.
That's kind of a bummer. Neither is a scar.
Oh, that's from The Exorcist that they performed when he was a kid.
Oh, okay.
They do mention that that's from The Exorcist when he was a kid.
Okay, yeah, because like when we first see Graydon in the window, when Eric in the first episode, when Eric gets taken away, there's this clear shot of his chest of him without a shirt on, and you see the scar. And I thought I don't know if the light was playing tricks on me when I first saw it. I was like, that doesn't look like that. I was like, wait, did this actor have like a horrible accident and has a horrible scar on his chest? Because that's sad. I feel bad for him. And then it's like, oh no, this is part of his character. He just has a scar, and we learn why later on. But there were definitely some things, or especially with Graydon's, like, we should probably wrap this up. Like, how did The Exorcist really go? Why is his father? We know why his father's constantly mad at him, and we know what happened, and the only true clue is like the creepy eyes when he pulls his brother out of the tree.
Yeah.
I am glad we're gonna get a season 2, and I am glad we're gonna get more Graydon.
That's the reason why. Because so at the end of the season, and again, if you're watching this, you shouldn't be. But the thing is, like, he dies at the end of the season, or at least we think he does. And we're like, and so like I'm thinking to myself, like, well, that was a waste. I'm actually really bummed about that, because I like this character, and I like Tony Revolori as this character, and I want to see that go. And then the finale, the final bit where he wakes up in the battlefield that Willow sees in his premonition, I was like, oh, okay, I'm okay with this if we're going to actually be going through some stuff with him and his own subplot. That makes me very happy. By the way, did you notice the 2-headed horrible monster in the battlefield?
Oh, I saw it.
My God, that thing is gnarly.
Like when I saw like sexy dark Alora standing there and she's talking to Graydon, I'm like, oh no, that's like the worm, because the crone's dead. She's able to defeat the crone, and I'm like, this is the worm playing tricks on him.
Yeah.
So and then you see like the horde of monsters behind Dark Alora, and I gotta tell you, this isn't. I know we're talking mostly about negatives. I do have a few more negatives here and there, but one
No,
thing I
let's
do
talk
want
about
to,
some positives.
yeah, I want to talk about the musical choices.
Oh, can we wait actually? Because I
Okay,
want to talk about the musical choices too.
we'll put a pin in that.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that
We'll
one.
definitely put a pin because I don't know why I really like the musical choice for the last bit. Just something about that guitar, but we'll talk about that more.
The whole move. Before we get deeper into it, because I want to talk about some of the stuff with some positive character stuff. Before we get into it, I think the musical choices are excellent throughout the show. But the cast is beautiful.
Yes,
the cast of this is the most beautiful cast I have ever seen in my life.
This cast truly is awesome, and one of the things I want to praise this show about is that it brings back that classic adventure fantasy. It brings back that fantasy adventure, but it also isn't afraid to really raise the stakes. Like when the old guy shows up, I kind of had a feeling that when the old guy volunteers to join the party, he dies almost immediately.
Oh, Mad Mardigan's friend, who was played by famous actor. Let me check. Hold on. You keep talking. I know. I forgot this guy's name.
Yeah, when he dies practically immediately, I'm like, okay, so this isn't going to be your typical Disney kids show where they're going to like, everyone's going to make it out. Everyone's plot armor is going to be fine. There's not real stakes. There's no emotional baggage or anything like that.
Christian Slater.
Oh, I wasn't talking about him. I was talking about the guy in the very beginning of the show, the old dude.
Which old dude?
The old dude who gets shot in the arrow when he's talking about you need to survive in the.
Oh my god, I forgot about him.
I mean, Christian Slater. We'll talk about Christian Slater as well. But yeah, this old guy like straight up just gets an arrow shot into him, and he's like, and he just keels over and dies. And I'm like, okay, so there is danger because you know how with a lot of fantasy family fantasy shows there isn't. I mean, there's danger, but there's no like real danger out there. This one's like, nah, this place is dangerous. You gotta be on your toes. You gotta be careful.
Well, I think clearly our main characters have plot armor.
Oh, they totally do.
We wouldn't be following them if they didn't. You're not going to kill Alora. Real quickly though, that reveal actually took me by surprise because I didn't realize that the show was set only about 20 years after the first film, but it's been 34 years since the first film. So I thought at this point they'd be older, but like these are all a bunch of like 20, like early 20 somethings.
Like the oldest one in the party is Borman.
My bisexual king Borman. Borman is beautiful. I love him so much.
He's my favorite character, actually.
Borman is 100% my favorite character. I think he is so funny. I think that actor is whip smart with his dialogue. He's written so well. There's a line at the end of the show where he's just like, "Do you want to go in there, or do you guys just want to kiss like real quick?" And he's just like, they're just like, "What? No." It's like fine. Well, you're lost.
The whole time I'm traveling with Borman, I'm like, that's something he definitely would say. And also, I want to call the show like D&D light in a sense, because the whole party is kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons party, where you have, and Borman is your like classic barbarian who just runs into a fight and is like, let's go.
I think Borman is really great. Borman is definitely the standout. I do think Warwick Davis is really good in this role. He comes back to Willow really well. And I like the idea that Willow isn't the greatest sorcerer in the world. Like he has ridden off this legend of destroying Bad Morta, but he didn't actually do it. And the movie, the show reminds you of like, hey, actually remember Willow didn't defeat Bad Morta.
He just tricked her, and
and so he's just like, I've been writing that for years, and like he's still a powerful sorcerer. Obviously, he's still really good at sorcery, but he's not like the most powerful sorcerer, and I really like that.
Yeah.
Kit and Jade, it's incredible that there is a fantasy show on Disney Plus with a lesbian relationship at the core, and they don't shy away from it at all. The first episode, they kiss, and they're just like, yes, this is a show about gay people. Sorry. Like and like there's no pretending like they're like, oh, it's not, it's all subtext. It's text.
Yeah.
It is 100% Kit and Jade are in love. They are the main relationship of the show. And I think they're delightful together.
It's
Um,
very much obvious, like the Owl House is with their two characters, Luce and Amity being in a relationship in a gay relationship themselves. But yeah, it's not just subtext; it's text, and there are. I do like the relationship, but there are definitely times where, like when Kit first kisses Jade, and then when they're in the was it Knock something?
oh, the castle?
Yeah, the creepy castle of
Knockmar?
Knockmar. Thank you.
Knockmar?
I don't know why. I just can't remember Knockmar for some reason. But yeah, when they're in Knockmar and then Borman's, they're like, tell us something real, Borman. When I was like, you totally have the hot switch. They're like, no, we don't. No. I'm like, yes, you do. Shut up.
It's like everyone knows it too, but they for some reason wanted to like not admit it.
Uh-huh.
And like I get that it was like a thing of passion the first time, but even I was kind of like going like, no, but you kissed her.
Yeah.
Like when she's just like, I don't love her. It's like, no, but you do. You literally told her in the first episode
Yeah.
that you love her.
You gave her a kiss right before you're going to run away. And also you keep breaking her heart throughout the second and third episodes. And you keep doing stuff that puts you and Kit in not in dire straits, but definitely puts a damper on your relationship because a bunch of shit's going bad.
Yeah, and I think that's the only kind of that's the only place where it falters for me. I think also Kit is really difficult to like a lot of times. Kit has a chip on her shoulder bad,
Yeah.
and I don't necessarily mind it because I've seen male characters kind of go through the same thing, and I knew that was the character arc we were going. And I think the actor is so good that it's just still compelling to watch. But sometimes they kind of go away from, okay, but she's being too mean in this scene. Like she's being really mean to Alora.
Oh no, that definitely happens a lot, and that's actually one of my complaints is that Kit goes very mean, and she's like, okay, yeah, she's cool, but I do love how the actor, I can't remember her name right now, the actor who plays Kit, how she does have some great one-liners, like when she happens upon the Echoberry bush, she's like, nuts, guess that's happening.
Yeah,
like, she's like, well, shit, yeah, that's true.
That's one of the things that I also like about it. Speaking of just some dialogue choices, like I like that not all this dialogue is Old English. It's not all spoken with a British accent. Most of our cast is American anyway, and they don't pretend to be British. And I really like that because it felt refreshing. The tone is very lighthearted, very comedic. It doesn't feel like old English dialogue of like what you'd see in like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. And that felt really refreshing to me. It didn't feel like I was watching. It felt very much like this is clearly a fantasy show that I've seen before. It's following a lot of similar beats, but it feels fresh because of the way it's written.
Yeah.
So that was really nice to kind of watch something that felt familiar and refreshing at the same time.
Yeah, and even the actors' voices, those who were British and those who weren't, never really bothered me because to me, it's a fantasy show. You have different. Not every time when you say fantasy, it's like, oh, everyone has to speak in British accents. No, they don't. It's fantasy.
I mean, the idea
you literally make this shit up as we go along. Talk normal. It's fine.
The idea that everything has to be British in fantasy, I believe, comes from the idea of like, whenever we would have like a French person or a German person or whatever in film, they were always British. Like foreign meant British. And so like, because medieval times is where a lot of fantasy is set, we also like, oh, it has to be British. Because if it's medieval, that's British. But I think what Willow does so well is to be like, it's fantasy though. Why does it have to be? This isn't medieval England. This is magical world number 5.
Yeah.
So like we're like, why do we need to adhere to medieval English?
Yeah. I don't know. But I do want to talk about a negative real quick.
Go ahead.
Like my 2 biggest negatives on the show. I'll talk about this one first in no particular order. There were definitely times where the editing of the show threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
And I just would be like, but why though? And then there are even a few times where some acting choices were made. I don't know, by the actor or the director or possibly both. Where even I'm sitting there going, why would you do that? Just sounded either ingenuine or you were just so done with this take that you just like, I'll just give the director something. And the director said, fuck it. We'll just take that.
Watch your language, mister. This is
sorry.
a PG-13 show.
Sorry. One major editing cut that I noticed, or even acting decision I saw, was in the last episode where Kit was fighting with Eric. Mm-hmm. And Kit's about to deliver the killing blow to Eric, who's been possessed, and he has like all the darkness in him. And then Allura just goes, "Wait!" It's just like this. No, like stop. Like no, stop. No. I mean, I'll just like no, don't kill him. Just it's like no, wait, don't. It's it just didn't feel genuine.
I don't remember exactly what you're talking about, but I don't disagree there, because there's a moment actually in the same scene, in the same sequence of events that I was curious about. So one of the MacGuffins of the show is the Lux Arcana. It's this kind of armor that was made that has key and is magical armor.
Chimerian Cuirass, yeah.
And Borman, the Chimerian Cuirass is the armor. The Lux Arcana is the key.
Yeah.
Right. Is that Borman tries to use it because he was like, we went on a quest to find this, and Mad Mardigan didn't find it, and we ended up, and now we'll talk about Mad Mardigan soon. But Borman wants to use it because he thinks that it's destined for him. He thinks he's a pure-hearted person, but he's not, even though he's trying. And so like it's given to Kit. What I don't understand is, why did they wait to use it when the crone was dead? Because the crone dies, and then Eric becomes the main threat, and then they use the Chimerian Cuirass.
Yeah.
And I was curious about that editing. I was like, why didn't you just like get in there, turn on that armor, and just start kicking ass?
Yeah, like if the crone is doing her thing, I would have been like, because Borman tells us the myth of the Chimerian Cuirass, where it's like whoever wears this armor is essentially invincible. Yeah. Like they will not die. So if I'm going in there and Borman gives the armor to Kit before they go inside, it's like, slap that sucker on. It's like hit the on button and then go and storm the castle. But
yeah, okay. So that was kind of a sequence of events that I felt like it almost felt like the Cuirass was kind of an afterthought. Oh, right, we had this, so let's use it. Yeah. I kind of feel like maybe the battle with Eric and the battle with the crone should have been happening at the same time rather than one after the other. And that's really the only issue I have with the final episode, which I think for the most part is stunning.
No, it is.
Because I think there's a lot of great like CG in the show, and I think there's a lot of great action sequences in the show. Although some not so much, but we'll get into it. You wanted to say something.
Yeah. There's another part during the episode where they're escaping the mines of Skrillin. Or Skillin, the mountains with the trolls.
Where Mark Hamill makes a cameo. He
does?
He's the voice. Remember, he's the voice of the Nelwyn. What's Willow called? The Nelwyn?
Nelwyn, yeah.
When they go to the Nelwyn vault inside that place where they find the Cuirass.
Oh, the tomb.
That voice is Mark Hamill.
Man.
Yeah.
I thought it sounded familiar. I just didn't put my okay, that's neat.
I really like, by the way, that the trolls just sound like middle managers.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
He just comes in, he's just like, okay, hi guys, how are we doing? And it's like, I also want another thing. I like it when they take fancy tropes, because you see trolls, you think they're gonna sound all like, oh, we're trolls, we're gruff, we're no nonsense, we're like, then it just goes, oh, hello, my name's Steve, this is Kyle, we're of the middle management here, so we'll be in charge of you for a while. So yeah, that was funny, but that was not my complaint. My complaint / criticism is, I understand that you want that some things need to be interpreted on the audience's own, but with a fantasy style show like this, I do feel like some explanations are warranted. And I felt like I never found out why Allura was feeling sick, or she was feeling tired, or how she was causing the tremors in the mountain when they were going to rescue Kit and Willow.
Oh, I did find that a little confusing. I guess it was just the stress.
Mm-hmm.
of being there.
Like,
I
I didn't know
think that's the most that we're supposed to think of it.
I didn't know it was because she started to feel sick. I didn't know if she just some anxiety maybe, but the fact that, and then because she is literally bringing the mountain down, and that's how, like, when they're on that lake, which at first I thought that lake was molten lava, but
me too, 1000%. I was like, why are you walking on that?
I know, I'm like, that's lava, dude. Oh, that's not lava, that's crystal. Oh,
looked really cool though.
And it does look really rad.
Yeah.
But as they're walking across it, I'm just sitting there going, huh. And then all of a sudden, Kit has like this thing, because, you know, they go into the tomb, she hears her dad, and she's just still angry. Now, that part where she's angry at Laura, I understand, because obviously she knows the legend of her dad and her mom saving Elora Danan from Bavmorda, and Mad Mardigan essentially doing everything he can to protect Elora Danan from the dangers of the world. Because obviously Bavmorda and other people, the crone who follow the worm, want to make Elora, because, you know, she's the chosen one.
Yeah, I like. Sorry, go on.
But still, like, when she's yelling at Elora, and Elora's like, I don't know how to stop it. I'm like, but why are you you sick? Are you stressed? What is the problem? Why are you? And then, like, I thought to myself, oh, this is actually Kit's sister raising a rebellion, and the Tremors are them blowing shit up and fighting back. And then that never gets answered. And it might get answered in season 2 or season 3, maybe hopefully season 2. But she goes, oh, these people are slayers, I'm gonna go rescue them. We never see her again.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It didn't bug me as much as we went along, but I do think that probably a more because there's this training montage that I think is really good later on in the season where like Willow could have been like, oh, your power almost brought the mountain down because it's not contained or something like that. They could have thrown in a line of exposition somewhere. I don't dislike the fact that there's very little exposition in the show. In fact, I think it's one of its strengths, but every now and then I think they pulled away too much on the exposition. But because you brought up the mountain, let's talk about Mad Mardigan.
Yeah.
So the story, so it's kind of a mystery up until we get there of where Mad Mardigan ended up. He is alive as far as people know. He's alive? ? He's missing, and a lot of people just kind of assume he's dead. But Borman specifically thinks that he's still alive. And I think that's kind of an engaging mystery throughout. And then it's revealed that he is alive, I guess, but he's in the realm of the worm. And the worm is like this big, massive, it's spelled WYRM, which implies it's a dragon. Because that's what
it's implied. It's a wingless dragon. Essentially, that's what worms, WYRMs, that when you spell worm, that's essentially referring to a wingless dragon.
Yeah.
Like they have 4 legs, but they just don't have wings.
And we see, I think, his tail when we're in the In Memoriam City.
It's a big ass dragon.
It's a big dude. And so he decided to go to the realm of the worm because he knew that Kit would be around to protect Elora.
Yeah.
By the way, so how they were able to do that is it's not Val Kilmer's voice. It's actually Val Kilmer's son, who plays Mad Mardigan.
That makes sense. I was wondering, because they did get a lot of actors from the film and back in the show. Like, of course, the same. I'm assuming that's the same actress who plays Sorsha, right?
It is.
All right, good. And of course, we got the little brownie he showed up for a hot second. I really enjoyed that cameo. It's like, I remember you, but at the same time, I'm actually glad he didn't join in on the quest.
Yeah, although it's a little weird that he's in the show because he's just mostly a cameo, just to be like, "Hey, Willow, I'm a dad now.
I'm staying here with my daughter. Bye."
Yeah, well, it's fine. It's fine. It's a cute scene.
Yeah, but also, I mean, we do get the why Kaya's gone, Willow's wife, and his son is gone because he was out.
Kaya's dead.
Yeah, she dead.
Yeah, but his son isn't. His son is implied to have just left.
Yeah, because he was so upset that Willow wasn't there when the mom died that he just because Willow was out doing sorcery business.
Because Willow, I guess, went on adventures in between this and the movie.
Yeah.
Willow and Madmartigan kept in touch and still went on adventures, and not like all the time, but in one of the times that he was gone, the village was attacked and his wife was killed. But we don't know why the villagers retreated from the village in the first place.
Right.
Which is left a mystery. Which is left a mystery from the season that I was up until the end of the season. I was kind of like, are we ever going to address that? Because they set it up as a thing.
That was going to be my biggest complaint of the show was how many plot threads are we going to introduce? Like really good character moments, really good things for character development, for world building, for lore that we're not going to touch on. It's like, what happened to Willow's village? What is wrong? What happened to Graydon to make him pull his brother down? What really happened to Madmartigan? Are we going to see Val Kilmer? Are we going to get a quick little ghost cameo? Is he dead? Is he not dead? I don't know. And then we get the tease. It's like, yo, we got volumes 2 and 3 in the book in the works. I'm like, oh, you sneaky bastards. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll ever see Madmartigan. I think the implication is that he's dead at this point. But his like ethereal soul is in the realm of the worm.
I would be okay. Yeah, I don't know how much Val Kilmer's son looks like his dad, but I would be okay because you know how especially in Nockmaar with the ghosts, where they essentially hologrammed that the original characters and actors from the first film into Nockmaar as ethereal ghosts when we saw scenes from the first film play out, which I thought was really cool. I really liked that. I really liked that they incorporated that. I would be cool that Madmartigan is actually dead, but you can, but at one part you can see his like ghost form, but it's Val Kilmer's son CGI to look like Val Kilmer from the film. And he just like smiles and then he fades away because he's found peace or whatever.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that either. I think that's probably the best you can do with Madmartigan, considering Val Kilmer can't speak at this point in his life.
Poor Val.
And I think, I don't know if this is corroborated, but I think that the actress to play Sorsha and Val Kilmer don't get along.
Oh, makes sense
because of what happened. Anyway, but a couple of things in Nockmaar that I really like, which is when they burst through the door and it's the ghost of the Reva. The girl who owns the wand before Alora.
Rev something. Yeah.
But it's like
I know what you're talking about.
We see their hologram, and then the new kids come through the door. I'm like, that's pretty cool. It's like same as last time with my friends. Like, your friends.
That was really neat.
The best line though in Nockmaar I want to highlight, which is when they're talking about what happened there, and there's like, and then Bad Morta turned everyone into pigs, and afterwards we turn them back, and they're eating pig, and they're like, you sure you got them all? Pretty sure. And they just put their food down. That was really funny.
I don't know if pigs live for 30 plus years, but yeah. There was something else I was going to say about Nockmaar that I forgot. We'll probably get back there.
I thought going back to Nockmaar was a good idea.
Yeah, I enjoyed going back. Another one of my favorite musical choices is when they, after the fight at the Slaughtered Lamb, then you get to Nockmaar and then you hear Enter Sandman play. I'm like, okay, I like that. I like that rendition. That was good.
Yeah, that was really cool because so Nockmaar plays an interesting role because the idea is that like what they did was Tangled Ever After this. So I don't know how much you know about the Tangled TV series.
Not a lot.
Spoilers for the Tangled TV series, slight. Not big ones. Slight spoilers for the Tangled TV series, which you should definitely watch. They make it so that Mother Gothel actually worshipped a demon, and that demon is the true villain.
Oh.
And so what they've done, and so what they did with Willow is basically the same thing. That Bad Morta actually was like the blood of the seven, had the blood of the seven, and she was working for the crone, but the crone was working for the worm. So to explain all that, to kind of like loop the series back in with the movie, I think it was a good idea to go back to Nockmaar and see references to the worm now put into Nockmaar that we didn't see in the movie.
Like-
that was a really smart move.
Like the door that Borman's trying to get through, because
It's the same door as in the vault.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that door, one of the things I was actually kind of meh on, well, not meh on, but it's like, I want to know what's behind that door, because you hear the door, like I watched that episode with subtitles on, and you can read the subtitles saying, like, there's voices on the other side of that locked door saying, Borman, come to us, Borman. It's a bunch of sexy lady voices saying, like, come, everything's great in here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that thing that lures people, the siren song that lures sailors to their death, or adventurers to their deaths, i.e. almost Borman, because the dude just wants money.
Borman is so upset that he can't open the door, too. He's just like, I'm going to get that damn door.
Yeah, and of course I'm sitting there like laughing. It's like, it's just like in D&D when you can't open a locked door, and you just keep getting bad rolls. But besides that, and we see the sigil again in front of the temple, so we know that sigil has to do with the worm. But also, it's like I kind of was wondering what was behind that locked door. I mean, we get to
the implication that I got was that, when we were in Memoriam City, and there's the room where with like this kind of like smoky haze, and you like look through it and you see and it's like the portal into the worm's domain. I assume every time we see that door, that's what's behind it.
Oh, it's a way to get into the worm's domain. Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
which is why Mad Mardigan's sword was left in the vault in the tomb, because he went through the door into the worm's domain. And so like I assume that there are doors all over this world that lead to the worm's domain.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm actually I liked the trope of the daughter/son picking up the father's sword.
Me too.
I like when she finds her dad's sword and she hears her dad and she grabs the sword. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, that's a must. That whoever made that sword is a damn good swordsmith, because that sucker has survived 20 plus years in a dank dungeon, rusting everywhere, and it's still sharp.
Yep. Fantasy world number 5, man.
That's
Fantasy
true.
world number 5.
Unless the plot mandates it, magic swords don't break from parents.
The Lux Arcana and the Cuirass are what's it? Chimerian Cuirass?
Yeah, the Chimerian Cuirass.
I guess the implication is that you don't know how to take it off, and that you might not be able to take it off. So the end of the season, they left it open of like, can Kit remove this? And like Jade's kind of flirtingly like, oh, I'll get it off of you. But like, can she? Like, is it possible?
Oh, I'm pretty sure you just have to push a button or something. But yeah, I thought that I didn't interpret that she can't get the armor off. I interpreted it as she's just joking that she doesn't know how yet.
Mm-hmm. Let's see who. The production design is beautiful. I think all the sets are gorgeous. I don't know how much, if any, volume was used in this show. It doesn't feel like there is any, and maybe in the caverns when we see like the lava lake, which isn't lava. I can see that being. Lava. I can see that being a volume, but I really like the production design, and the creature design also is beautiful. The major creatures that the crone uses, like the dude with the cage on his head and the bird lady, awesome,
terrifying,
awesome designs.
Yeah, I think they're called the Gales.
Yeah, I think so too. They're great designs, like truly fantastic.
They are really good designs, and also the practical makeup, especially for the bird lady when she's in human form, is downright terrifying. Like the whole sharpened teeth, the way that it looks like her skin is peeled back a little bit with her feathers poking out here and there. It's like a demented version of Howl from Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it truly is good. But there is one other negative I do want to talk about that I've had with the show.
Go for it.
And it's a weird negative, because the show is called Willow, but Willow is such a small, no pun intended, especially on Warwick Davis' stature. But Willow, I mean, he does play a big part, but he doesn't play as big a part as the other characters. Like, we don't even see Willow until he's not even mentioned until the end of the first episode.
No, we see him at the end of the first episode.
Oh yeah, we see him at the end of the first episode. Oh, that's right, we do, because that's when it's like, hey, surprise, you're a Laura Denon. which I kind of caught on a little while after when we keep going on to this rant to this random girl who works in the kitchen. It's like, are you the baby?
I thought it was going to be Jade because she had red hair.
Yeah.
Because Laura had red hair. And so I was like, oh, Jade's Laura.
You know, I thought that too. No, it's her. I mean, I do like the actress who plays her. I like her a lot.
I think she has red hair in the future when we see her the flash forward.
I don't know, but I do remember in 2 episodes, like when they're at the Bone Reavers camp, you could see like part of her hair is red again, but it's not like her roots are showing. It's like this long streak just showed up. I'm like, how'd that get there? And then literally 2 shots later, she has a full head of red hair. And I'm like, what?
They were working with something.
Yeah, that was one of the editing problems. It was like she had a streak in at first, not her roots, and then her whole hair. Oh, well, that's a minor thing that doesn't really bother me. But I like how this is an ensemble show, and Willow is a big part of it. But there are definitely times where I cared more about the other characters' backstory and what the other character is going through than the main title character being Warwick Davis as Willow.
See, I find that a feature rather than a negative. I'm glad that the show has such strong characters that I like them a lot. And again, multiple times in the show, I thought Warwick Davis was going to be dead by the end of it. The end of it. So like the idea that we get to the next season and without Warwick Davis, like right before he jumps off the waterfall, which we don't see, but when they figure out that they got to get to the In Memoriam City by jumping off of this waterfall, Warwick Davis, Willow decides to leave to go back to his home, which perfectly fine. Like of course, like he's concerned for his village, and he has this moment where there's this moment that the show wants you to believe that, oh, this show could continue without Willow. And I actually liked that because I was like, you know what, I'm okay with that because I think all these characters are strong enough without him at this point. I would watch a Willowless season. But I do get it. And I'm glad that he's in the show, and I'm glad that he is going to continue to be in the show because it's a show. Yeah. But I'm kind of glad that he isn't this kind of big part. It kind of felt to me like Luke Skywalker, right? Mm-hmm. Like Willow, the series feels very much The Last Jedi to me. Like Willow is very much like the kind of this old jaded hero, very similar to Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. Mm-hmm. I don't expect Luke Skywalker to be the main character of The Last Jedi.
Right.
I expect Rey to be the main character. And so like when I see Willow, I'm like, oh, I don't expect you to be the main character. I expect it to be Kit and Jade and Laura and Graydon and Borman. Like I expect them to be the main characters.
Yeah. I can definitely say that this is more of a me problem than anything. And it's like, if I'm watching a show called Willow, I expect Willow to be the main focus of, like, he's the main character. But thankfully through the decent writing and the character portrayals, I care more about the other characters, and I can definitely see Willow becoming, I don't know if you'll get this analogy, but maybe others will. This could become a Legend of Zelda situation, where even though the title of the game is The Legend of Zelda, you play as Link, and Zelda only shows up either at the very beginning or at the very end of the game. Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I kind of understand what you're saying. Like the show, if it was Willow, is not really the show being called Willow isn't indicative of who the character is at this point. That's because the name of the franchise is Willow.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. I'm just glad that we have such strong characters to follow, though.
Oh, yeah, me too.
At least they're fun enough that I want to follow them.
Yeah,
and
really.
I cannot stress enough. Ben. These people are gorgeous. They are beautiful people.
I mean, when we first meet the crone, for a second I thought, okay, you're either the crone or you truly are another prisoner from another kingdom that was taken.
Oh, I knew 100% she's the crone.
And then it turns out she is the crone. I'm like, damn it, crone's hot. I'm just looking at her. I was like,
actually looks like.
What? I'm like, damn. And then when she turns into, okay, that's creepy. But then it's like, why is she so hot though? Like, I love her dress. Her dress
It's
is just
evil. If
it's
evil,
evil.
why hot?
Yeah, exactly. And also, like when she does her when Eric is like, no, Crone, and she's like beautiful, young and beautiful, but then then they kiss and she's giving him the dark infection, but then you cut it to Kit and Jade and Alora who are like, oh, because you see him kissing the old withered Crone monster.
Man, I want to talk about one of my negatives, which is that I think while a lot of the action in the show is good, especially some of the magic action, I think is really cool. That I really like how the Crone and Alora fight with their magical powers. I like seeing kind of the streaks like come through and kind of these like lightning lines come through. Um, some of the sword fighting, I would have liked to have seen less cuts.
Yeah, me too.
And I think I think there's a lot of good sword fights, especially when it comes to probably the more seasoned action heroes in the show. Like I think the actor who plays Borman gets some pretty good fights. I think the actress who plays Jade, some pretty good fights. But when it comes to Kit, they cut around a lot, and
Yeah.
I'd like to see less of that in the next season.
Oh no, I'm 100% with you. The magic fights were very well done, but there were times the sword fight was just constantly cut, like swing, clang, cut, swing, clang, cut. I'm like, stop with the cutting. I want to see the action.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it maybe because, especially in the final fight, bugged me a little bit because of it's kind of like maybe because it was in such a closed space, so it was really difficult to probably choreograph that. But like some of the stuff in like the forest areas, not crazy about. In the next season, I hope that they do less cutting, more choreographing, less cutting.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. Also, I will say I'm a little miffed because Borman like extends his sword, his cleaver that he calls it, and I'm like, it could do that the entire time, and this is the only, and we don't get a good look at his extended cleaver. I was like, I want to see that. It's kind of, it's one of those fancy things where it's like, hey, here's my last trick, and he extends his blade. And it's like, for me, that's just cool. Like when swords just magically or just instantly transform, and they become like even more of a beast mode than they were throughout the entire show.
Yeah,
And I was like, I want to see this because he goes, I'm gonna go out the same way I came in this world, buck naked and kicking ass. And I'm like, Borman, you're the best. I love you, Borman.
My bisexual king Borman. There's a scene that I want to highlight. There's a couple of things that we haven't even touched on. We haven't even touched on the lumberjack lesbians.
Nope, I haven't touched.
Yeah,
I was so sad when they died. I was like,
me too.
At first, I was like, are they an illusion of the forest or are they actually real? And then it turns out they were actually real and they were actually, no, we're going to save this girl. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's awesome. Yeah. Woo. And then they instantly die.
I really liked them. I thought they were really cool. And I like the actor who played the knight who gets possessed. I think he was really fun.
I know I've seen him before. I just can't put my finger on where else I've seen him.
You've seen him in a bunch of things. His voice is really his voice is the one that you're just like, oh right, I've heard your voice a million times. They were fun. Kind of sucks that they died in the way they did. I really like Jade's origin when they're just like, oh, the Bone Reavers. Oh, you're actually what's his face? The guy from the bad guy from the first film.
The first Bone Reaver, Kale. Yeah.
Kale. You're actually Kale's daughter. Actually, we're all Kale's daughters. He had a bunch of daughters, a bunch of sons and daughters. And I thought that was really clever.
Also, that was in Nockmar where she fights Kale. Like you see the ghost, like the ghost of the Bone Reaver mask. It's kind of like Luke Skywalker finding Darth Vader in the tree or in the cave.
Yeah,
and they're going, and then like she finds out it's like, I am your father, and she's like, oh, but this is my family now. And then of course the sister's like, you have to choose. You can do this quest, but once you're done, you got to choose. And she's like, oh no, do I choose between the love of my life or my family? And at the end of the season, it's like, you're choosing the love of your life. Don't get yourself, girl. We know who you're picking.
Yeah, I wonder what the next season is going to be like because they imply that it's going to take them a while to get out of the Immemorium City now that the portal is gone. So I'm curious how the next season is going to go.
Yeah.
There's one part that I really want to highlight, which is something that I love in fantasy and sci-fi and movies in general, is when two people have unbelievable sexual chemistry and they just want to bone the whole time. And I call it the Brendan Fraser, they call it the Mummy effect, right?
Oh, between Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz.
Yeah. Like, when they set eyes on each other, they want to bone. When you see Antonio Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones in The Mask of Zorro, those two want to get it on so bad.
What do you see Morticia and Gomez in the 1990 Addams Family films?
Oh, the thing about chemistry, when you have two leads that are supposed to be in love, the thing about that chemistry is it needs to be so electric that when they're not on screen, you assume that they're having sex. And it's like that's how that chemistry needs to be. And so
wasn't that like written in the Addams Family script? It was
yes.
It's a kids movie, but we have to assume that every time Gomez and Morticia are not on screen, they are boning.
Yes, that is where I got the idea from, because that's right. It's true. The thing about one thing that made blockbusters that used to be the reason why blockbusters used to be such epic love stories. We don't have those anymore. We don't have epic love stories anymore, and that really sucks.
Yeah.
Avatar is a love story. The first Avatar is a love story. The Mummy is a love story. The Mask of Zorro is a love story. The biggest blockbuster, Pirates of the Caribbean, is a love story, and the chemistry is so palpable you can cut it with a knife. You don't see that a lot anymore. In fact, you see it hardly ever. So what I really appreciated is in this show.
Yeah, when you can definitely tell that, especially in episode, I want to say episode 5, when episode 5 and 7 especially, when it's Kit and Jade in the forest and they're at Jade's.
That's the moment.
Yeah, where then she says, in 10 seconds, I'm going to kiss you, and I don't know if I'm going to stop it. She's like, well, there's only one way to find out. And then she instantly gets kidnapped. I'm like, God damn it. And then
what a cock tease.
I know. And then they're on the beach and they're fighting, and then she's straight upset, and she's like, you have to distract your opponent. And she goes, I love you. It's like, shut up.
Yeah,
it's like
you
cute. Just literally, it's like 2 episodes ago, you literally were about to make out, and you told her you didn't know if you were going to stop. Now you finally get a chance, and you're finally like snuggling up together, and it's like it's obvious, and no one gives a shit.
And I love it, and I'm so happy for it. But the moment I really want to highlight is the moment in the forest, because what I really love is how good their chemistry is in that moment, because they're looking at each other and they're heavy breathing and they're getting closer, and they clearly want each other, and you don't see chemistry a lot like that anymore. And I'm really happy to see it in the show, especially in a show with such strong LGBTQIA plus representation.
Or representation. I almost said implications. Like, that's not the right word.
Representation. No, it's representation.
It's kind of implied. It's like, no, they gay.
And we get
rainbow flags everywhere.
And we get it when they're on the Sea of Despair, right? The Sea of the Shattered Glass, Sea of Despair, Sea of whatever.
Shattered Sea.
Shattered Sea, whatever. By the way, that mud creature is adorable.
It is. I thought I was going to be some grotesque monster, but then it pops up. It's like, it's just a giant mud puppy. I want to pet it.
And that chase scene through the mud creature with the mud to the sea with on the horse, awesome, awesome sequence. I really like the montage that we get in that scene. Here's where we'll talk about music, Ben. We'll talk about music finally. I think the musical choices in this show are immaculate.
Now, the first few episodes, I didn't catch the musical. I think I caught some of the music, but it wasn't until Enter Sandman when I really caught it. And I want to highlight, and that's one of the things I really want to highlight. I want to highlight that musical choice because that kind of makes sense. You're going into the creepy castle. You want a metal song. Enter Sandman is a perfect choice because in the lyrics, it's Off to Never Neverland, and it's about like exit light, enter night.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That works. Enter Sandman. As much as I love that song, as overplayed as it is in modern media, it makes sense and it works. And also, I like the singer who covers it. I don't know what it is about like the last episode, the last bit, like when Graydon wakes after Graydon gets blown away, he wakes up in the realm of the worm, and you hear
not the realm of the worm. He wakes up in the future.
Yeah, he wakes up in the future with Alora, with evil Alora.
Yeah, because that's what they say. Because we see references to this prophetic war that because we see Willow has a beard in the prophecy that he keeps seeing, and he's like, for us to win, Laura needs to die. We don't necessarily know why that is until Graydon wakes up in that future and sees that Laura is actually the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is about the opening drums and guitar riff to Dire Straits' Money for Nothing. You know, the I Want My MTV song?
Mm-hmm.
But when it was playing, and right when the credits hit, when the guitar riff starts going, I'm like, I'm hyped. I'm in. Like, because it's this big crescendo, and good job whoever edited that part. I will say it's because you've heard the song before. Obviously, you heard it in Willow, but also I'm pretty sure you heard it on the radio. But there's this drum, this keyboard crescendo, and it all gets to a point, and then everything else cuts, and it's just the guitar, and just those 3 or 4 bars of just guitar music. As the credits start playing, you see the army, you see the horde behind evil Laura. I'm like, oh fuck yeah, we're getting season 2.
Language.
I'm like, oh hell yeah, we're getting season 2. But yeah, I was hyped. I will not lie. Like the Nockmar scene, the music choices at the end, especially for Nockmar and the season finale, it got me hyped up. I was like, oh, we're going to a dark place. And I had a feeling you either were awake or asleep, but I was watching these at super early in the morning, and I really wanted to text you and be like, dude, Nockmar's metal.
The thing of musical choices in the show are great throughout. I love every time they cut to a musical to a needle drop for the credits, I think are great. My highlight was the montage though, because I thought that was perfectly used. And I think the montage is well edited. It's cut together really nicely. The training sequences are really good. I love seeing Willow train Alora and how casual he is with his staff, and he's just got his staff just within arm's reach just to block or whatever. The whole sequence, it works so well to me, and a lot of it is because of the music, and I think the music choice was really great. I don't know the song offhand, but I liked it a lot.
I can't remember. I just know that Money for Nothing and Men Are Sandman were the 2 that were really big stickouts for me.
Yeah.
But there were other good needle drops that I really enjoyed that definitely helped set the mood and set the tone for the end of the episode. And also there's one other thing I was curious about. Now, obviously this is a fantasy world. Magic works the way they want it. It's their rules. But because I remember a very sad part, like when Silas died at the end of episode 3 at the Slaughter Lamb, and he keeps telling Willow to don't waste your magic, because up to this point, Willow hasn't been using magic a whole lot. And that got me curious as to like, wait, is magic finite in a sorcerer or in a great wizard or sorcerer like Willow and other thing? Because he's not casting spells. And you would think because obviously he turns out to not be like the greatest sorcerer in the world. And I thought that because I would figure like when he's on the battlefield, he's blasting spells left and right. He's like, no, I could do this. I've been trained for 20 plus years. I know how to use magic, but he doesn't use magic until halfway through the season. So that kind of got me a little confused. It's like, is magic finite? Is magic not finite?
I think they were playing with an idea that they might have discarded. Okay. I think the idea initially was that as you get older, it becomes kind of like like your senses, where your senses start to kind of lessen as you get older. And because Willow is getting older, his sorcery would start getting weaker. So it's not necessarily finite. It's that because I assumed, and this could just be me, because like sorcery comes from your life force, is part of who you are. It's part of the more you use, the older you get or the weaker you get.
Okay.
And I think they probably were playing with an idea similar and then decided against it halfway through the season. And I don't necessarily mind that because I was happy to see Willow do some stuff.
Oh, no, me too. Me too. Like when Willow was training with Alora and he was blasting magic spells left and right, I'm like, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I was happy to see that. But I do wonder if maybe it's because if maybe in the next season they'll go back to the idea of like, Willow doesn't have much time. He doesn't have much magic left in him, and he used a lot of it against the crone. And so maybe in the next season we'll start to see him get a lot weaker and maybe not use magic so much.
Yeah.
Or they'll just drop it completely and kind of keep going with the realm that they're going with, which I'm okay with either, but it does create a weird discontinuity with the beginning of the show where he's very like, I'm not using my magic a lot right now, because he does that one big blast and then he gets really weakened.
Yeah. That's what I was curious about, because like if magic, I mean, I understand. I like your theory that the older you get, the weaker magic is for you, especially even if you're like one of the great powerful sorcerers.
Right. And even like with Alora, like the idea is like, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like Alora didn't use her magic for her entire life. And so it doesn't exist in her anymore. And so like the fear is it doesn't exist in her anymore.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Maybe hopefully season 2 will get more concrete rules on magic that for this world, or maybe not. I don't know.
The thing about magic that's really tricky is that creating concrete rules for magic is really difficult. And I think that's the problem that Harry Potter has fallen into as it goes along. I have this theory that I kind of peddle out every now and then, feel like this is the right time to do it. I call it the elastic franchise theory.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that there are these franchises that exist in this world that are elastic, that can be stretched so much and they'll never break. I think Star Wars is one. I think Dragon Ball Z is one, for example. So, for example, Dragon Ball Z can introduce aliens. Dragon Ball Z can be like, we were a fantasy world where the Monkey King was a boy with a tail and he turned into a giant ape. Actually, he was an alien. And that stretched, but didn't break. Star Wars has the Force, and I think the Force creates a lot of elasticity for it. Harry Potter is not elastic. As Harry Potter has magic in it, but Harry Potter has a lot of rules to that magic that make it so that if you can break that franchise, and I think the Fantastic Beasts films have, they've gotten to the point where you stretch those rules so far that the rubber band has broken.
Yeah, and even there are times, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I know I've watched some fantasy show or fantasy movie where in the very beginning of the exposition of the film, of the world building, it's like, oh, there's this one rule of magic that you cannot break because it is impossible. But at the end of the movie, they do the impossible. And
that's a different thing, because that could be about like, you know, if you believe in yourself so much, you can break the rules of magic, like whatever. But the idea of setting hard rules on magic really, I think, hurts it. And we're now a movie and a season into this franchise, and I think at this point, putting down a hard rule of what magic is would actually hurt it more than
it probably will. So and at the rules of magic bothered me at first, and then the more we went on with the season, the more Willow started using his magic, the more that Alora started learning how to use magic herself. And even the fact that Graydon could also use magic, because he's like, hey, I have my flute. I just listened to what you guys said. I figured, screw it, I'm going to give it a try. What do we have to lose? And then Will's like, no, personal objects can become conduits for magic. You're becoming a sorcerer. This is cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, like stuff like that doesn't really bother me. And at that point, spells were fleeing left. Well, not fleeing left and right, but magic, because in the first 3 episodes of the show, I'm like, where's all the magic? It wasn't until the Slaughtered Lamb, when Willow does his big, area of effect attack, that I'm like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Now I'm watching a show about magic, but there's no magic. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, I think the idea of like putting down an idea of what Graydon was working with, why Graydon can become such a powerful sorcerer so quickly, when it has been such a struggle. It was a struggle for Willow. It was a struggle for Alora. And you know, magic is like the Force in Star Wars, where anybody can use it. It's kind of a don't try, do situation. Like, you know, just do magic and you'll be good at it. But it does take a certain amount of practice to learn it. But Graydon didn't really have that. And Graydon and it goes back to my biggest problem with the season. Graydon just kind of has magic towards the end of the season, because I guess that's what we're doing now. And explaining why he can do it wouldn't be setting a rule down, would be just explaining like, oh, it's because he was possessed twice.
Yeah.
The magic was left in him because he was possessed.
Yeah, I do like his purple magic though. Like
Yeah, I do too.
Everyone has their own different color magic, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, I thought it was blue. Anyway,
oh, that's right. You're colorblind. I'm sorry.
It's fine. So like the idea that like Willow, and so like setting in a rule of like, oh well, magic is finite, or it gets harder to do when you're older. Like that's not necessarily a hard rule. That what you're talking about, but I think some of the answers that we need, that you are searching for, would be a little difficult to address. And I'm curious if they're even interested at this point in addressing like why did Willow not use his magic in the beginning? There are answers that need to be addressed. Can the Cuirass come off? Where are they going now that the Immemorium City is free of the crone? What's the Worm's plan? Where's Man Mardigan? And finally, what the hell happened to Willow's village?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the questions that go into season 2 that I need answered.
Yeah. And who knows what other questions will arise from, because we obviously see 3 volumes on the show.
When I saw that, I was like, bold.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, I really hope Disney Plus can deliver, but at least this is Disney Plus. And when Disney Plus and when Disney says, no, we're going to commit to this, they don't balk like a certain someone that we love talking about on the main show.
It's really nice that they have renewed it for a second season. I don't know if they've renewed it for a third. I don't imagine that they wouldn't.
No, I mean, I have a feeling that with Kathleen Kennedy and with Disney and everyone else going and doing the thing they're doing right now, you would not tease. Like, if you just had the volume once, if we just saw the volume 1 spine, I'm like, okay, so we're getting a second season. But the fact that you showed volume 1 and volume 3 tells me that when they made this show, they had a clear 3-season arc that they wanted to tell. And they had a clear story. Like, this is the beginning. Obviously, volume 2 is the middle, and volume 3 is the climactic end of this franchise, or maybe not the end of the franchise, but the end of this story, the end that was started all the way back in the 80s, 30 plus years ago. I have a feeling that we are going to get volumes 3, because how much of a dick move would it be is if we get season 2 is really good, and then Disney just all of a sudden goes, "Nah, we're not gonna continue. That's it. Sorry." It's like, but the book, we see volume 3 on the shelf.
Yeah, I'm with you. I want to talk about real quickly on the music part, and then I'm pretty much done.
Yeah.
So the music is done by 2 people. Xander Rodzinski did 5 episodes. He's a composer for The Hunger Games, a couple of things, but it's also composed by James Newton Howard, who is an incredible composer, who did King Kong and Jungle Cruise and tons and tons of things. So I love him. They both use James Horner's Willow theme from the first movie in really cool ways. And I was really happy to see it come up so frequently in the show.
Oh, yeah, you do see a credit for James Horner of the original Willow theme. And I always love it when it's like, hey, we are going to use the theme, but we're going to use it in different ways. And I really enjoy that.
And they make it kind of big orchestra, and in a lot of places they make it small sometimes, but it's used a lot in the show. And I was every time they used it, it made me happy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one other line that I want to say that just had me cackling. In The Slaughtered Lamb, when Willow's talking to Silas, and then Willow just goes, "Go shift someone."
Oh yeah. What was the line of just like, what do we need to protect from? Were rats. What are were rats? It's pretty self-explanatory, actually.
Yeah, Borman. It's like, what's a were rat? You'll know, just like the name says. And then she's like, yeah, there's this thing with 2 heads. That's a were rat.
I really like. Man, Borman. I love Borman. I'm so happy he didn't die. I was certain he would die at the end of the season.
I was glad he walked out of there. I mean, you can tell he had a fight, but I was just like, yeah, that's my man. That's my boy.
Say it. It's my bisexual king, Borman.
He's the bisexual king.
Anyway, I'm happy the show exists. I can't wait for the second season. I'm glad you got to watch it so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
I hope the others watch it and like it, honestly.
This was definitely a show that I was very happy while I was watching. It was definitely one I was like, am I going to slog through this? Because you asked me to do it. I told you I would. But as I was watching, it's like, no, I want to see the next episode. It definitely gave me I want to watch the next episode now vibes. Like, I wanted to. had I not needed to wake up at 9:00 the morning yesterday for my therapy session, I would have been up till 5 a.m. watching and finishing Willow.
Watching this show week to week and getting to the almost kiss where Kit is taken by the troll was a nightmare.
I bet.
Let me tell you, when that happened, I was like, no.
Oh, that I would just, even when Kit gets kidnapped, I'm like, you bitch, you mother. I'm just like, I'm reacting because I'm just like, they finally expressed their feelings. They're finally gonna be a couple. Yoink! I'm like, no, how dare you?
Oh,
And also one more quick thing that I want to say. I love how the show diverts your expectations on what certain locales will be. Like when you hear the Shattered Sea, I'm thinking, okay, they're gonna get on a boat, they're gonna be lost at sea. No, the Shattered Sea is just ankle high water, maybe waist high water in places, but
no, it's not. It's ankle high water and mud.
Yeah, that's all the Shattered Sea is. And I'm like, huh, that's interesting.
I thought that was pretty cool.
I did like that. Yeah,
I think the production design is really good. I think the imagination at play and some of the sceneries that we see is really cool and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I also want to highlight real quickly. There is a scene that's flashback to Sorsha and Willow where they digitally de-aged Sorsha, and it looked great. I thought she looked fantastic.
I liked Willow's beard.
Me too. But I thought Sorsha had some pretty spectacular de-aging technique going on.
They did. That was really good. That was really well done.
Okay. I'm good.
I'm good too. I really enjoyed the show.
I'm really glad you watched it. I really enjoyed it too. If you guys watching or listening to this, oops, that's a spoiler for later, Ben. Yes, you heard right. There is a audio feed for Fake Nerds Watch now. At the time of this recording, it is not out yet, but it will be by the time this is up. So,
yay!
If you're watching or listening to this, please let us know what you thought of the Willow TV series. It's been pretty contentious online. Obviously, there's the bad faith arguments.
Gee, I wonder why.
Obviously, there are the bad faith arguments about the LGBTQ representation. I don't want to hear any of that. If you don't like it because of gay people, I'm sorry. This is not the show for you.
The door's that way.
But if you didn't like it for other reasons, I'd love to hear them. I know people don't like the musical choices. I get it. That's a personal choice on mine and Ben's part.
That's understandable.
If you thought that Alora was insufferable, I get it. Sometimes I did too.
Especially in the beginning when all she cares about is Eric. But then when she
falls in love with Graydon. Oh.
Well, also when she straight up says, "Nah, I'm not going to do this anymore," like to the crone, like to the crone's face. I'm like, "Yeah, you see."
Eric has such a punchable face.
He, especially after he gets his hair chopped off, I'm like, now I want to punch his face.
How could they do that to his beautiful hair?
But it's weird because Eric is definitely, when you meet him, you're like, okay, he's the insufferable prince who's always skirt chasing, but he's not a jerk.
No, and that's actually what I like about it. No one's really a jerk in this, except Bortman.
Well, Kit too. Kit can be a jerk.
Kit's got a chip on her shoulder, but she's not a jerk.
That's true.
But, that's true. Eric's archetype could be a misogynistic jerk, but he's not, and that's what I like about him.
No, you're right.
Anyway, so if you like the show, especially if you like the show, we'd love to hear what you liked about it, what you thought worked about it. Not every show is perfect, but we clearly thoroughly enjoyed this show, and we want to know if you guys did as well. Again, no bad faith arguments. Thank you so much. That's Willow season 1. We will be back for season 2, perhaps an episode by episode breakdown if we can keep up with it. Depends on when that season comes out. I don't know if it'll be this year. I kind of doubt it.
They probably will announce season 2 this year. It's probably
they already announced it. They announced it before season 1 came out.
Well, shit.
I don't know if they're filming.
Maybe,
it might be.
Maybe.
Oh, they are filming. I think they are filming.
Come out maybe in the fall or the winter.
It could. But perhaps for season 2 we will do an episode by episode discussion. That'd be a lot of fun. I'd really like to keep up with this, especially if you want to keep going.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Ben. So yeah.
Now that season 2 is for sure coming, then yeah, I want to definitely. I mean, once again, it depends on what schedules are like down the road because sometimes things change. But we will definitely be talking about season 2 at some point.
And we we have a new plan this year for the Fickner Podcast Family Podcast that will allow us to do more things on the same schedule. So stay tuned for a bunch of stuff. Guys, this is Fickner's Watch. This is our Fickner's Watch series where we did Willow. We just did Willow. We finished Willow. It's done. Willow's done. Don't ever talk to me about Willow again. I'm kidding. But you can check out The Last of Us. I believe The Last of Us is the only Fake Nerds Watch series going on right now. That is, I believe, Sparks and Ryan are doing that with our good friend Pai Geron. They are discussing The Last of Us on HBO, I believe, episode by episode. We don't know for sure, though. So check that out. There are, of course, more Fake Nerds Watch shows coming as the year goes on. I will be returning with Cookie from Just a Little Podcast to do Star Trek Picard in just a couple of weeks. And I didn't get to do Star Trek Lower Decks season 3, and I'm bummed about that. But whatever.
Well, what happened when we were going to do Star Trek Lower Decks season 3? That kind of put a damper on things.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Anyways, moving on.
You can. This year is a big year for Fake Nerds Watch. There are going to be tons of shows. Obviously, we'll probably cover every Marvel show, The Boys, Gen V. Stay tuned for all that sort of stuff. But for now, I believe the only other Fake Nerds Watch series going on is The Last of Us. Cool. So you can check out all sorts of other shows on this channel. If you like this video and you subscribe to this channel, such as Basement Arcade. Basement Arcade is a video game series, Let's Play series. You can check out all sorts of video games that we've played and we've talked about. We've scared to death Ben.
Yeah.
He's a ghost because he's dead because he got so scared.
I'm the dead now. Bye.
And you can check out Basement Arcade Pause Mini Ben's series on video games. Where the most recent episode we reviewed God of War Ragnarok.
We did.
Any episodes you want to talk about coming up?
Yeah, we have the Basement Arcade Quarterly that Inside Baseball was going to be recorded almost immediately after I sign off of here. And also I have some great guests lined up. So definitely keep an eye out.
Cool. And of course, Animation Station, which just came out with a new episode. Love seeing that. Puss in Boots. I got to join Sparks on his show Animation Station to talk about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, one of my favorites, if not my favorite movie of the year. Check out why in that review. Only if you've seen the damn movie.
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't.
Don't spoil the movie.
I'm not going to spoil the movie. I'm definitely going to. If I can catch it in theaters, cool. But if I can't, I'll definitely watch it on Peacock because it's coming on Peacock. Yeah, it should come on Peacock. It's Universal.
Fake Nerd Book Club is also a show we do on this channel, and perhaps that show will also return this year, but we'll see. Of course, you could check out Fake Nerd Podcast series, our mothership show, the show where all shows come from. Fake Nerd Podcast. Last week we talked about a thing. Oh, we hyped up 2023.
Yep.
We talked about all the things that we were excited to see coming this year. That was a lot of fun. Check that out now. And this coming week, we're going to be talking about sans Ben. Ben is going off on a vacation. We're going to be talking about the director of Train to Busan's newest film, Jung-E, which is a sci-fi film on Netflix. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up this Sunday live. Check us out. Cool, guys. Lots of cool things in the pipeline. You can check us out on Fake Nerd Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Of course, if you'd like to support us financially, you can check out our Patreon and our TeePublic. We greatly appreciate all the support you can give us. Again, like this video, subscribe to this channel. fakenerdguys@gmail.com. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find my writings on atomicgeekdom.com, guideramamedia.com, and cbr.com. Ben?
You can find me on the internet at BenMagnet27, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can also find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine, and GoNintendo.com, which, at the time of this recording, my newest article about tempering the hype a little bit for Super Nintendo World. Don't get me wrong, it's really exciting. I'm super hyped as well, but this is Hollywood. The Hollywood theme park doesn't tend to get a lot of stuff that the other theme parks do because we're small. We don't have a lot of space. So, yeah, that's up on GoNintendo.com right now, so go ahead and check that out.
Great. And you have another show, D and Dark, where you play Mary Frankenstein.
Yes, D and Dark. Yes, that is a Dungeons and Dragons real play podcast where I play Mary Frankenstein along with my group of friends who play other famous Universal monsters. And you can check that out and listen to it wherever podcasts are listened to.
Excellent, Ben. Well, thank you so much for doing the show. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to talk about Willow season 1.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad you told me to go ahead and watch the show because I really did highly enjoy it. And yeah,
Very cool.
It was a fantastic show.
I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad we talked about it. So until next time you see us, guys, stay fake nerds.